If you think sales success is about staying positive, you're not thinking like a true top producer. See, top producers don't just hope to feel confident. They train their imagination to create certainty on demand. In this book right here, Think and Grow Rich, written back in 1937 by Napoleon Hill, he talks about there being 13 principles of success and achievement. And one of those chapters is the chapter on imagination. He calls imagination the workshop of the mind, and he does so for a reason. See, it's not a motivational idea. It's a sales tool. It's a sales weapon. If you don't learn how to direct your imagination, it will default to fear and doubt, and often playing the worst case scenarios in your mind. You'll stay stuck in average results, in cycles of burnout, and you'll wonder why your goals always feel just out of reach. See, I've spent decades mastering the principle of imagination, and today I'm going to show you how you can use it to rewire your mindset, to raise the vibrational frequency of your thoughts, and to close at a completely different level than you've ever thought possible. See, you're always using your imagination. It's not something that you can turn on and off, but it is something you can direct. The question here is, are you using it in the right way? Are you using it to your benefit? Every salesperson is always using their imagination on every single call, whether they know it or not. If you're walking into a sales interaction and you're expecting resistance, you're expecting that things aren't going to go your way, what you're doing is you've already activated this powerful tool, and you're actually imagining yourself losing even before you started to speak one word. See, most people unconsciously use their imagination to rehearse rejection and reinforce limitation. I would suggest that if you're part of a team, or even if you're just working solo as an entrepreneur, you've probably spent a lot of time in your role playing overcoming objections, actually sowing the seeds and expectation that you're going to meet resistance. Very few people actually ever role play or rehearse the sale going all the way through, actually imagining what it is that they want. Imagine a boxer. Do you think a boxer imagines themselves being knocked out? Do you think a football team imagines themselves losing the game? No. They build images in their mind of them doing exactly what they want to do, performing at their top level. See, top producers use imagination intentionally to pre-pave the close, not to brace for a no, but to prepare for a yes. See, this isn't about being creative. It's about being consciously aware of the inner image that you're creating in your mind, that you're holding, and ultimately that you're broadcasting out to other people. And believe me, other people feel it. See, the frequency of the close, that state of emotion, the use of the right tonality, the use of the right words, all of that frequency starts first in your mind. Everything is created twice. Everything you see starts as an idea. Before a single word leaves your mouth, your energy has already started in the sales process. See, buyers feel your emotional congruence long before they hear your logic, long before you get into features and benefits. They're already wondering, is there certainty here? Does this person have the confidence and certainty in what they're saying? This is why certainty sells, because your buyer is looking for it. Your buyer's looking for it as a way for them to feel safe. And if they don't feel safe, if they think that there's risks in them saying yes, you know what they'll say? Let me think about it. Let me check with my wife. Let me check with my husband. Let me run it by the board. Your imagination is the tuning fork for that certainty. It's what sets the tone of the entire engagement. It either aligns your state with your goal or it works against it. In Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill said that the imagination is the workshop of the mind, but most salespeople treat it like it's a storage closet for fear. They imagine all the worst case scenarios. And as a matter of fact, again, like I said, they rehearse it. It's interesting. You can go into a company and they'll be sitting down with, a bunch of team members and maybe some new person on the team who hasn't been programmed with all the reasons why things won't work speaks up and says, I got an idea. Why don't we try this? Or why don't we try that? And immediately people begin to think that that person's crazy because they're talking about possibility on ways to do things differently. And then somebody who's been there for a while says, I don't want to be the devil's advocate. As soon as somebody says they don't want to be the devil's advocate, what's the first thing that comes out of their mouth? Usually them being the devil's advocate. And they start to talk about all the reasons why things won't work. And the room, hushes to a quiet, right? Let's like E.F. Hutton's talking, right? Let's listen to what the devil's advocate has to say. See, this is why I created a really simple tool to help you identify where your own energy may be blocking you through a breakthrough. So before we go any further, I want to make sure that you've downloaded the Sales Energy Assessment. Now, the link is right below there in the description. And here's why this really matters. See, your imagination isn't just about a vision. It's not something that you can just see. A lot of people will say, I have a hard time, I'm not a visual person, or I have a hard time getting the picture, so I can't imagine. No. Your imagination is much more than just vision. It's the mechanism that sets all of your energy. Certainly it can activate, pictures in your mind, but it can also be an auditory response and certainly a kinetic one where you feel it. And your energy is what enters the room before you ever open your mouth. And people feel it. If you've ever been in a meeting and somebody walks in the room and you can just feel the entire energy changes, either it's an up or it's a down. That is your intuitive factor. We have 6 mental faculties. Like we have 5 senses, the ability to see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. We have 6 intellectual faculties: reason, memory, will, intuition, imagination, and reasoning. And what this powerful force of imagination is what activates intuition in the other person. They can feel that energy. And most salespeople, they just don't realize this. They're not aware of it. They've never been taught this. But the image you hold in your mind of yourself, of the person you're meeting with, of your product or service, of your offer, the image that you hold of all of those things before the call, before you even go to the phone, before you ever walk into the door, all of that energy determines the frequency that you broadcast out during the call. And it's interesting because you've experienced this. You know the power of this. You just never directed it. You've met with somebody, and it's not that they said anything wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. You can't put your finger on it, but you say to your friends or your colleagues, I just don't get a good vibe from that person. See, feeling is a word that we created to define the conscious awareness of our body's vibration. And we have the ability to pick up other people's frequency. And so when you walk into a meeting, having built an image in your mind of uncertainty, of confusion, of fear, of doubt, of expectation, of failure, you broadcast that. See, if your imagination is shaped by fear or doubt, or even an attachment to a certain outcome, this is why the strategy of always be closing doesn't work. This is why in our program, we teach you want to work to a specific commitment objective, not to a close. If your imagination is programmed with fear, with doubt, with this attachment, you're actually leaking that frequency. You're broadcasting it. And the person you're talking to, the person you're emailing with, when they read the email, they can feel it. This is why, look, you can get 2 people and they can say the exact same word from a script. They can use all the right tonality, but they get completely different results. See, it's not just what you say. It's the energy signature that you have when you say it. That's why I created the Sales Energy Assessment. Trust me, it will help you pinpoint exactly where your internal frequency is misaligned. If you were in a room and that room was really warm, you wouldn't go over to a thermometer and try to change the temperature. What you would do is you would go to the thermostat and you would reprogram the thermostat, because it's the internal mechanism that controls the environment of the room. So you can stop unknowingly repelling results. You can actually stop a negative flow of energy and actually start attracting what it is that you want. See, attachment to the plan is the fastest way to kill a dream. What most people do is when they have a goal or a dream is they sit down and they write out all of what they think they should be doing. They come up with a plan, but that plan is based on conditions and circumstances as they are today. That plan is based on their level of awareness today. It's based on the market conditions today. And what do we know about all those things? Well, all those things change, which means that the plan that you've come up with today probably isn't going to be as effective a week from now, and certainly not a month from now. See, most salespeople don't fail because the goal is too big. They fail because they're too attached to a plan that no longer works. And as the plan begins to fail them, what most people do is because they've put so much emotional energy in creating the plan, they put so much attachment to the plan. You got to work the plan, get a plan, so much loyalty to the plan, that what most people do is they lower the goal to meet the diminishing results of the plan. And they do it all the time. See, imagination creates the vision. But when things get hard, it's our attachment that hijacks it with fear and with control. And again, with this attachment to being right. Here's a question. Do you want to be right, or do you want to get it right? See, you'll know that you're attached to the plan when you feel a panic set in. You'll know you're attached when you begin to get really worried that the plan isn't working, instead of seeing possibility, instead of seeing alternatives. See, when the moment that things don't go as expected, if your first emotional response is like, the yogurt of life has hit the fan, like if your first emotional response is, oh my goodness, what do we do? That's a great sign that you are way too attached to the plan. As a matter of fact, if you think about it, when the plan stops to work, when the plan stops producing the expected result, you shouldn't feel fear or doubt or panic. You should feel excitement. This is an opportunity for you to kind of roll up your sleeves and say, okay, let's get creative. Let's change. Let's reassess the conditions and circumstances. And then let's create a plan that's going to get us to the goal, rather than saying, geez, the plan isn't producing the number of leads that we thought. So what we should do is lower the goal because we're not going to have the leads. And people do this all the time. In the book here, Napoleon Hill warns us this. He says that imagination has to be developed and used. It's got to be developed and used, not just worshiped through some vision board or some waiting game like most people do. Imagination is a tool. It's a muscle. It's a mental muscle. You can develop it, and you can direct it, and you can use it. See, the moment you trade your dream for a rigid plan, you lose the very tool that was meant to lead you where you want to go. You diminish your greatest resource, and that is your ability to see into the future. That's what imagination is. Again, your energy always precedes technique. Your ability to hold your image of what it is that you want, to stay laser focused on the goal, is more important than the development of skill. It's more important than learning, tricks and techniques to close. What good is it for you to learn all the tools and techniques and tricks and tips of closing if the internal belief and the internal image you're holding is that it's not going to work in the first place? Again, two people can use the exact same script, sell the same product at the same price in the same market, and one closes while the other crashes and burns. Why? It's because the prospect isn't responding to the words. They're responding to the energy behind them and to the energy of the person who's saying them. You see, you can't take you out of the sales process. Your energy and your ability to control and direct your energy is the greatest asset you have. See, that energy is set long before that first meeting. It's set long before you pick up the phone to call. And it's set by the image that you've built, the image that you've rehearsed in your own imagination. Is it one of success or is it one of sabotage? See, if your inner voice is whispering, I hope this works. I hope this works. You know the saying, hope isn't a strategy. If your greatest attribute emotionally is hope, you're leaking doubt. I'm telling you, doubt can't close deals. Top producers don't rely on hope. And they also don't rely just on a script. Instead, they bring that script alive. They animate it. They give life to it with belief, with congruency, with alignment, with the sense of inner authority. And I'm telling you, your prospect feels that. People can spot a phony a mile away. They know when you're saying great words on a script, but they can feel the doubt if you haven't built faith and certainty in yourself. See, the image you hold determines the future that you meet. Think about that. Every dream, every goal begins as this invisible seed. You can't touch it. You can't feel it. Only you have it. It's in your mind. You see it. You feel it. And your imagination is the soil that determines if it lives or dies. I often will teach people in a seminar that I can take an acorn. And it's been said that, inside an acorn lives an oak tree. Well, there's no oak tree inside an acorn, is there? What's inside the acorn is the pattern plan for an oak tree. But if I take that acorn and I place it here on the table, we could wait 1,000 years, never going to be an oak tree. See, it's only when I take the acorn and its potential to be an oak tree, and I place it in an environment conducive to its unfoldment, when I place it below the ground and in the dirt, that it begins to attract to it everything in harmony with the vibration of its DNA, with the vibration of its pattern plan, with its programming. And the same is true for you. Every goal, every dream you have is like this invisible seed. And your imagination is the soil that determines if it lives or dies. So when you write out the dream, when you speak the dream, when you allow yourself to go inward, close your eyes and really feel yourself in possession of the dream, all of those are activating your imagination. And what you're doing is you're turning the invisible idea into a clear, actionable intention. See, when you write that dream down, when you write out your goals, this is why it's so critically important to write your goals. Almost everybody who has a goal, goal setting or goal achieving program talks about, the person should write out the goals, but they never explain why. The reason why is because when you write it out, that's the first physical manifestation of that dream. See, your dream starts as a nothing. It comes from you don't know where it comes from. All of a sudden, you have an idea. But that idea was somewhere before you had it. We don't make something out of nothing. There's no way you make something out of nothing. So what happened is, in a process of desire, you tapped into a frequency of thought and you became aware of this idea. Now you have the idea, but only you have it. Nobody else can see it. Nobody else knows what it is. But as you begin to write it out, that's the first physical manifestation. Then when you begin to speak it out, in the Bible, it says life and death begins in the tongue. Life and death begins in the tongue. In the beginning is the Word, and the Word is made flesh. When you speak it, when you feel it. See, Napoleon Hill is crystal clear about that in this book. When you speak your dream while holding on to the image of positivity, when you're speaking of your dream and you're holding an image that's congruent and in alignment with it, people feel that level of integrity. But the same is true that when you're speaking of a dream, but you're holding images of your past failures, when you speak of your goal, but You're really thinking thoughts that maybe this won't work. You strangle the seed before it ever takes root. And again, people can feel that difference. Like I said, you can tell when you're talking to somebody and they're saying all the right words, but you just don't feel it. It doesn't come off as truth to you. You can spot a phony a mile away. See, the winners in sales don't wait to feel like it's working. What they do is they build the image of it working first. They create the conditions that they want in their mind first. Everything is created twice. Right now, you're watching this on your phone or a computer. The idea for the phone or the computer was first in the mind. I'm looking into a camera. I've got a microphone here. There's lights here. There's a table here. There's a book here. None of these things existed. They all have as their ancestry thought. Everything starts as an idea. And again, the winners in sales, they don't wait to have a result and then feel that way. They feel into the result they want. They keep the image of what it is that they want, no matter what the scoreboard says, no matter what the conditions and circumstances are. I've been in business. I started my first business in 1988, 35 years ago. That means that I have gone through like 9 recessions. I've gone through some really big collapses. I've seen our stock market lose 10% in a day several times. I've seen unemployment and inflation. I've lived through all the different cycles that any economy can go through. And I can tell you this, regardless of what was going on the outside, I held true to what I knew I could create, to what I wanted to create. This is why so many people are flabbergasted when they hear that during the Great Depression, more people became millionaires than any other time in the U.S. economy. When the conditions and circumstances were at its worst, when people were lining up for food that no longer existed, when people were jumping and throwing themselves off of buildings and bridges because of economic collapse all around them, other people saw it as the biggest opportunity. I remember I was a speaker at the National Realtors Association. This is in 2008. They had a big conference, their yearly convention. It was in San Diego. And I was doing a speech. There must have been 3,000, 4,000 realtors there. And I was talking about the levels of awareness necessary to be successful. And what really scared me when I was done is people came up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, thank you. It was so good." That's nice to hear. But here's the scary thing. I saw people who'd been in the real estate game for less than 5 years, and they all almost said the same things. I can't wait for us to go back to the way things were. See, the truth is we were never going back. In 2008, it wasn't just the disruption of the financial banking system that kind of crashed. What changed was the industry as a whole. Airbnb was coming on board. Zillow was coming on board. The need for a real estate agent began to change. How people were going to engage real estate agents was changing. And people who hadn't been in the game long, people who lacked the experience, were hoping that things would go back to the way they were. I'm going to suggest that most of those agents never made it. And I'm also going to suggest that collapse of the housing market in 2008 was the very best thing that ever happened in the real estate industry, because it got rid of all the weak hands. It got rid of all the people who had never really developed the skill and the talent and the ability to be a winning agent. It really kept just the best, and the best survived. Not just the best at doing the tasks, but the best that could see into the future, that could imagine what was coming out of the market, what the market was going to be like in 2011 and 2012, 3, 4, 5 years later. And they started building their business focused on what it is that they wanted based on the disruption that they saw happening. See, they kept the image of what it is that they wanted, no matter what the scoreboard said, no matter what interest rates were. See, Napoleon Hill said that if you can conceive of the idea, if you can believe the idea, then you can achieve the idea. If you can imagine it, then you can hold it in your hand. If you can imagine what it is that you want, then you can also feel the vibration of what that image is. See, it's not just like, let's say your goal was to buy a home. You could certainly get the image of the house. 6-bedroom house, swimming pool, 8 bathrooms, theater room. You could certainly get the image of that. You could go to magazines and cut out pretty pictures of it. But what makes that image really powerful is when you go beyond the physical attributes of being able to see it in your mind, and you activate your imagination to where you begin to feel it. You begin to feel, what does it like? What's it like to wake up in a house? What's it like to be able to go out and open up the big patio doors and see your swimming pool, and you're actually building this image and you're feeling it. You're feeling the pride of accomplishment. You're feeling the certainty as you walk around knowing that you created this. You feel the joy and the happiness. You feel the safety of the financial future that's unfolding for you. And see, once you hold that vibration, once you hold that, then regardless of the conditions and circumstances, you can always go back and build certainty and build belief. If you can imagine it, you can hold the vibration of it. And once you hold the vibration, the sale, the process, can't help but respond. When you begin to build the idea of having that meeting and seeing yourself confident and allowing yourself to feel that, allowing yourself to feel the certainty, allowing yourself to see yourself directing and leading and seeing the prospect responding to the direction that you're taking the conversation in. That is the level of confidence. That is a level of confidence that transcends logic before you do anything else. Stop the video if you haven't already. Make sure that you've downloaded the Sales Energy Assessment. It costs you absolutely nothing. Look, my life won't significantly change either way. Whether you download it or not, the Martinelli household is going to be okay. We're going to be just fine. But I know the difference it can make for you. Now, if you've already done it, right on. Now, if you've already downloaded it, now go do it. But if not, I'm taking the risk of losing you as a viewer. Hit pause. It's that important. I'm willing to risk you leaving this video and never coming back and, watching some other video. But I'm doing this because I want to help you. I want to help you. Not only can I help you, but I want to help you. It's my purpose. It's why I do what I do. So hit the pause and go and download it now. And then take the assessment. Be completely honest, because until you see where you are, you can't fix that which you don't know is broken. Until you know where your energy is out of alignment. Every script, every strategy, every sales goal is going to feel like an uphill battle to you. Once you've completed the assessment and seen your results, I want you to come right back to this video, and I want you to watch the video that's coming up next. It's titled Secrets to Mastering Cold Calling. Why this one? Well, because what you just learned about imagination and energy, what I want you to do now is apply it. See, learning something is of little value. There's lots of people who've gathered all kinds of information. They've gathered all the resources to be highly successful. They have all the know-how. But until they apply it, until they direct it to a specific purpose, it's of little help. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply it to one of the most avoided, misunderstood, and misused sales activities in the entire profession. Cold calling. See, cold calling isn't just a numbers game. It's an energy game. Cold calling is one of the most brilliant tools that you have because you can take action and have an immediate result, immediate feedback. that allows you to enter into that feedback loop. Once you understand how to bring out the right frequency, how to make that first call, stop dreading it, right? And start dominating it. Once you begin to learn that, it certainly isn't a numbers game. It becomes a really fun game because you start to compete against yourself. You know what? I know I can do this better. Even though I got the appointment, I bet I could have pushed it a little bit further. I bet I could have gone from the appointment to going to the next commitment objective and beginning to give them a little bit of a pitch. So I want you to take the assessment and then meet me right here. And let's jump into this next video. The link is in the description below. See, this is where the shift becomes real.